Hi, everyone. Ashley May, Mike Beer here, looking at the Grade 2 Eclipse Stakes this Saturday up at Woodbine. It's race number 9 on their program, and this one is run on the Tapeta. Mile and a 16th is the distance for the older horses, 4-year-old and upward. And looking at the names here as I scroll through the past performances, a field of 8, but some big names in here making maybe their return to the races. That includes Get Smoking, who has tried Grade 1 and Grade 2 waters in the past, as well as the 7 Web Slinger, who has shown that he's a very competitive turf runner.
Yeah, it's a really good field. I guess in some ways the surface that they're running it on could be key here, actually, because to me, the three, I'll put it in quotes, the 3 best horses in the race. I know best is relative, but to me, the 3 best horses in the race, they're all turf horses.
Absolutely. And this is just going to be different. And I think the other thing is the mile and 16th distance. I'm not sure for some of these horses, they really want to go that short. I think for others, no problem with the distance, but I do have some question marks around several in here. We'll take a look at the time form US pace projections and curious to get your thoughts on here. Do you agree or do you not agree with this?
Yeah, the pace projector is not right. The 2, rather the 3, Get Smoking, who is 3rd on the pace projector, he's going to be on the lead. Just that's how he runs. That's his running style. You can go through his PPs and go ahead and pull up the lifetime PPs and formulator and find the last race that Get Smoking was in where he wasn't on the lead. You can't find it. I mean, he is a one-way speed kind of horse, and he's going to the lead in here.
And I think, with those tactics in mind, I do think Stanley House, based on the last out, may suggest he could press the pace in here. But I agree with you. Get Smoking is a horse that, as you mentioned, regardless of distance, 7.5 all the way out to 1.5 miles, he wants to be forwardly placed. You can see the LP flag is attached to the number 7 Web Slinger, who they did try something different last time out, going 1.5 miles. They put him on the lead, but it was a short field, so I don't want to really read into that too much. We'll kick it off here with the number 1. Who now transitions to the barn of Marty Drexler off a 5th place finish in the Grade 3 Tampa Bay, and a horse that you can certainly loves synthetic surfaces, whether that be at Gulfstream Park, whether that be at Presque Isle. Now is going to try it at Woodbine for the first time.
Yeah, it does seem like this is his preferred surface. Now we'll just see whether or not he can class up with some much better horses here. He's obviously in good form right now, and the surface, which probably works for him. But they're not giving him any class relief here. They did switch to turf last time, and he really wasn't competitive with stakes horses. He lands in another really, really tough spot here in his first start for Drexler.
Yeah, I think he's a horse that maybe you look at as a minor sort of player in here. Maybe you can get 3rd or 4th. I think when you look at some of those overnight handicaps at Gulfstream Park, you see the horses that he was beating. To me, the better of the 2 is probably, the horse Jerry the Nipper that finished in front of him 2 starts back. I think he's an okay horse, a New York bred who's been sort of all over the place and just shows up. So I think, there is some upside on him here, but as you mentioned, maybe for the top spot, a top sell. The 2 Data Man here, this one for Graham Motion. We'll take a look at his most recent performance. Now, he's 6 for 16 in his career. They kicked off his 5-year-old campaign at Laurel Park, which I don't think is shocking for Graham. I mean, we can see these horses sort of use the Mid-Atlantic as a starting point, and I just think this horse's turn of foot, is just very impressive, especially in those last 5 strides to the wire. He splits horses twice. I think he's pretty talented.
Yeah, this horse has a lot of ability. They came back in the right spot for him there at Laurel. You can see that's the difference when you run legit stakes horses against allowance horses. That's what you get. He just absolutely hammered that field. The runner-up came back and upset a stakes race in New Jersey last weekend. That's a pretty nice horse. So listen, I mean, Data Man, to me, it's just all about surface. I was a little surprised when I pulled the PPs and saw that Graham's going to run him in a graded stakes race on synthetic. But to me, if the surface isn't an issue for him, I think he's going to be really, really hard to beat in here.
The 3 Get Smoking is 9-5 on the morning line. This one for Mark Cassing. You talked about he's going to be the pace setter in here. I don't disagree with you at all. And was able to win his final start as a 7-year-old, but just a different ball game, 1.5 miles. And now he's got to cut back in distance. And I guess that is where I think if you're going to try to poke a hole and Get Smoking, that's the first sort of spot to start, because I'm not sure necessarily he wants to go 1.16 miles. It feels like in those races, he always gets caught late.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's weird. I guess, you get to stretch out in distance. One of the reasons you stretch out a horse like him to 11 and 12 furlongs is because he just gets to usually go pretty slow on the lead early. And then he can sort of sprint on home. And he's a horse who has the stamina to do it. When they go shorter, they make him go a little faster early. And, he has a little bit of a harder time lasting. This is the race that they returned in last year as well. It was his first start off the layoff in the Eclipse. He made the lead in there. didn't seem like they made him go that fast, and he got really tired at the end of that race and got run down. We'll see if he's tighter for this one. If he comes back tight off the layoff, actually, and makes the lead, they won't have an easy time catching him, but I didn't fully trust him at a short price.
And his works are really good, so I don't want to knock him, but I also think about now 7 into his 8-year-old season. I wonder kind of what happens there. The 4, Cool Kiss, this one for Marty Drexler, claimed this one late last year, and obviously they've had to sit on him for a bit, but he did win his final start of the year, a horse that obviously as a 3-year-old had some high hopes for trying to get into the classic races, did race in the King's Plate, did race in the Prince of Wales. I just feel like he's a cut below these horses. He just hasn't shown me enough in the last, say, 7 or 8 starts to put him as a top pick.
It's going to just need a really, really big breakthrough first off the claim here and first off the layoff. We'll see if he can do it. Obviously, Drexler really dangerous off the claim, but he needs to improve this horse a lot.
The 5, Classic Motown, we'll take a look at his most recent performance. It came back at Gulfstream Park in March, and this was a race that was carded for the turf. It was moved to the Tapeta, and this horse is last, and you can see on the outside here is just trying to get to the horses that are in front of him, and it's going to be interesting. At this time, Skyro, the eventual winner, was his stablemate, no longer the case, but I felt like this horse ran, in my opinion, quite well. I guess the concern is you see this replay, go look at the last, I don't know, 4 out of the last 5. It's typically what happens, Mike, right? He's closing, and he just sort of runs out of real estate.
Just leaves himself with so much to do in his races. It's hard to overcome that, especially when you're facing, even better horses like he is in this race here. I mean, we'll just see if he can do it. He did rally for second behind Get Smokin', going 1.5 miles on this surface. I mean, he's going to be coming at the end of this race. The question is, how close can he get to some really, really nice horses late in this race?
The 6, Stanley House, is another 5-year-old in the field who participated in those same races that we talked about for Cool Kiss, right? We saw this one back in the King's Plate, the Prince of Wales, races like that. And he was able to kind of run pretty well last year early in the season. I did feel, though, his last 3 times that we have seen him as of late, he just hasn't been firing the same races. So for him, I wonder if getting back to Woodbine helps his chances. One that, again, he kind of reminds me a little bit of the Rail Runner in here. If you're looking at him, I think it's for a minor share at best.
Yeah, I do like that they freshened him up a little bit after that last race. And listen, it's at least worth pointing out they did try to switch him back to turf again last time, and he's probably not as good on that surface. That was also a race where he had to go pretty fast on the lead in there. So I was trying not to be too hard on him for that one. I remember him when he came off the layoff last May. I remember thinking he ran really, really well off the layoff last year. So maybe he'll come back, ready to go again. He didn't win again after that, actually, but he ran some really nice races in Stakes Company after he won off the layoff last year.
And you mentioned the turf race last time out. Fort Washington came back to win Preakness weekend at Pimlico in a pretty good race as well. And just facing better horses, right, in that event. The 7, Web Slinger, he's interesting. I've always been a huge fan of this horse. I feel like he shows up. I like his running style because he does close from off of it. But a couple of question marks here. First time on the synthetic. He is going to cut back in distance. And I think another key point is when you use Formulator and you go back, he's never trained up at Woodbine. You don't see published works, right? So it looks like they have maybe, moved him here for various reasons, right? You can kind of maybe, I don't know, make an educated guess as to why he's come up here, but have a feeling this is to maybe get a race or 2 under his belt before they go back into the States.
Yeah, I feel that way too. We'll just see how obviously he can win this race. He's a really good horse. He's been trip compromised, as much as any horse that I could remember in the last couple of years due to his running style, because he just doesn't really have any speed. But when he gets into the clear, this horse has a big finish to him. And listen, if Get Smokin' is going to set a legitimate pace in this race, it's only going to help Web Slinger. And if he handles this surface, kind of like Data Man, if he handles this surface, he's going to be tough in here.
The 8, Dancing in Denial, this one for Gail Cox, does have one race under the belt that came back at March in the Fairgrounds in the Grade 2 event. And horse is a big price in there. Never really got rolling from the back of the pack. But you go down the page, the form's spotty. There are wins. I guess my concern is most of the wins are on grass.
Yeah, he's probably better on turf. I remember when they brought this horse to New York last May. Looking at it now, I can't imagine what I was thinking, but I remember really liking him in that race at 9-1 and losing a bunch of money on him. I don't know. Maybe I had like too many beer the night before. I don't remember. But looking at him now, I don't know why I liked him. He didn't run that well. He has won a couple of times since then. I thought he was hard to make in here.
I don't know. Maybe it's because he's fourth to Fort Washington the previous fall. Who knows? But it's tough, right? Because when you are catching him too, last time he won, he was a decent price. He was almost 8-1. But prior to that, I didn't think he was a good price in that field back in July. So you'll definitely get value with him come Saturday. and he's going to round out this field. So obviously, there's some interesting horses in here. We've talked about Get Smokin', who now has to cut back in distance. We talked about Web Slinger trying something new, going up to Woodbine for those connections. And then obviously, Data Man, a horse that we seem to respect a lot in here. And for me, Mike, I'll just be kind of blunt. I think Data Man's a horse to beat. I think anywhere near 5-1 on the morning line's a gift based on what we've seen to this point in the career, and just a horse that is solid. It is an interesting spot to see him, but that's the case for many in here. So I can't really knock them for trying something new.
Yeah, I hate to assume that he'll just handle the surface switch, because I don't, just buy into turf and synthetic being sort of interchangeable. But I'm with you, man. If he handles the surface switch, I just think he's better than these horses. And so Data Man, I hope he's around the 5-1. If he is, I'm just going to bet him in this race. He's my top pick.
Yeah, and we look at Get Smoking and Web Slinger in similar ways, right? Horses to use underneath. If they win, wouldn't be shocked. I would personally take Web Slinger a little bit over the number 3 in here, Get Smoking. I just have this feeling that he might be, in the front, or I should say towards the front at least, top of the stretch, and then I think he'll get past. So both on the same page here. Mike and I like the 2 Data Man. It's race number 9 this Saturday at Woodbine, the Grade 2 Eclipse. Good luck.